Some thrillers don't rely on fast editing or loud action. They work slowly, they let tension build. They make you uncomfortable in quiet ways. And the 1990s were full of movies like that. Stories about trust breaking down, about authority being questioned, about normal people realizing they're in situations they can't control anymore. Let's start with one that doesn't look like a thriller at first. Courage Under Fire from 1996. On the surface, it feels like a military drama. Denzel Washington plays an army officer named Serling, a guy who's respected, disciplined, and clearly carrying something heavy from his past. You can see it in how quiet he is, how careful he is with his words. He's assigned to investigate the death of Captain Karen Walden, played by Meg Ryan. She's being considered for the Medal of Honor, and that alone already makes things complicated. Once awards get involved, people stop talking honestly. At first, the story sounds simple. Her unit was ambushed, she stayed behind. She saved her crew. End of story. But then Serling starts interviewing the soldiers who were there, and nothing lines up. One guy remembers her as calm and fearless, another says she froze. Someone else hints that she made a terrible decision but doesn't want to say it out loud. Same night, same battle. Completely different memories. That's where the movie gets interesting. You start realizing this isn't really about what happened on the battlefield. It's about guilt, about loyalty, about how people rewrite events just so they can live with themselves. Meg Ryan's performance is surprisingly strong here. This isn't the cheerful romantic comedy version of her. Her character feels real, capable, stubborn, flawed. And Serling, the more he digs into her story, the more his own past starts pushing back to the surface. You slowly understand that he's not just looking for the truth about her. He's trying to survive his own. By the time the movie reaches its ending, there's no big victory feeling, just honesty. And sometimes that's heavier than anything else. Arlington Road. This is one of those movies that sneaks up on you. Jeff Bridges plays Michael Faraday, a college professor who studies terrorism. His wife was killed years earlier while working as an FBI agent, so he's already living with loss, already cautious. He meets his new neighbor, played by Tim Robbins. Nice guy, polite, friendly, helps fix things around the house, talks about family, brings over food, the kind of person you trust without thinking twice. At first, but tiny details start to feel off. A name that doesn't match a document, a story that changes slightly, a question that never really gets answered. Faraday tells himself he's being paranoid, but he can't stop looking. What makes this movie so uncomfortable is how normal everything feels. No dramatic music, no villains twirling mustaches, just quiet conversations and small lies. Tim Robbins plays his role in a calm, almost gentle way. That's what makes it worse. He never seems dangerous. He never raises his voice. He never threatens anyone. And slowly you start to realize that's the point. The movie becomes less about bombs or crime and more about how easily someone can build a mask, a family, a life, a reputation. By the time the truth fully reveals itself, it doesn't feel shocking. It feels inevitable. And the ending, it's one of those endings that stays in your head. Not because it's loud, but because it's cold. The General's Daughter, a military murder investigation that quickly turns into something much uglier. John Travolta plays an investigator sent to look into the death of a high-ranking officer's daughter. She was smart, tough, private, and very careful about how she presented herself, which usually means she had reasons to be. As he starts questioning people on the base, you can feel how protected everything is. Every answer is careful, every sentence is measured, everyone is worried about careers, reputation, rank. The truth exists, but it's buried under layers of authority. What stands out is how lonely the victim feels even after she's gone. Nobody really knew her, or maybe they chose not to. The movie doesn't rush. It takes its time showing how systems protect themselves before they protect people. Travolta plays his character with a tired edge, like someone who's seen enough institutions lie to know exactly how this will go. When the full story finally comes out, it's not satisfying in a clean way. It's disturbing, and it feels real. Not because it's dramatic, but because it's quiet. The Game. This one is different. Michael Douglas plays a wealthy businessman who has everything: money, status, a huge house, complete control over his life, and zero joy. You can tell he's been living on autopilot for years. His brother gives him a strange birthday gift, access to a company that promises him an experience. No explanation, just trust us. At first, nothing happens. Then small things start going wrong. His credit cards stop working, his bank account disappears, strangers act like they know him, his house is broken into, And suddenly the man who controlled everything, controls nothing. That's where the tension comes from. You start asking the same question he is. Is this a game, a setup, a scam, or is he actually losing his mind? The movie does a great job making the audience feel lost without feeling cheated. Every scene adds just enough information to keep you guessing. By the end, you realize the story isn't really about the company, it's about a man who built his entire identity around control. And what happens when that disappears? Crimson Tide. Almost the entire movie takes place underwater, inside a nuclear submarine during an international crisis. Gene Hackman plays the captain, old school, strict, absolute believer in following orders. Denzel Washington plays his second in command, smarter, more cautious, believes that following orders without thinking is how disasters happen. When the submarine receives an incomplete message about launching nuclear weapons, everything depends on how they interpret it. Launch or wait. Inside that metal tube, with no contact to the outside world, the argument becomes dangerous. Not fists, not guns, authority, procedure, rank. Two men who both believe they're right and both might be wrong. The movie doesn't need action scenes. The tension comes from arguments in narrow hallways, from whispered conversations, from people choosing sides. You can almost feel the pressure of the water outside the walls. It's a story about leadership and how dangerous confidence can be when it's mixed with fear. Primal Fear. Richard Gere plays a confident defense attorney who enjoys attention almost as much as winning cases. When a young altar boy named Aaron is arrested for murdering a powerful archbishop, the case becomes impossible to ignore. Aaron looks terrified. He barely speaks above a whisper. He stutters. He seems completely broken. Edward Norton plays him in his first major role, and right away you can tell there's something unusual going on. Not in a flashy way, in small details. The way he avoids eye contact, the way his voice shifts when he's nervous. The movie builds slowly through interviews, court scenes, and private conversations. Gere's character starts believing he's defending an innocent kid who's been crushed by something much bigger than him, but small cracks appear. Aaron's personality doesn't always feel consistent. His memories change, his emotions switch too quickly, and without spoiling anything, the final act completely changes how you see everything that came before. It's one of those endings that forces you to mentally replay the entire movie in your head. Even years later, it still works. Breakdown, starring Kurt Russell. He and his wife are driving across the desert. Nothing special, just another road trip. Their car breaks down. A truck driver offers to help. His wife accepts the ride to get to the nearest diner and call for help, and then she never comes back. No crash, no witnesses, no proof she ever entered the truck. The police don't believe him. People at the diner don't remember seeing her, and slowly the idea starts forming that maybe this wasn't an accident at all. What makes Breakdown so effective is how grounded it feels. No high-tech tricks, no supervillains. Just one man running out of time, realizing that if he doesn't act, nobody else will. It turns into a desperate search across empty highways, dusty garages, and forgotten back roads. You can feel how alone he is, and how quickly normal life can disappear. Executive decision. A plane is hijacked by terrorists. Not exactly a new idea. But this movie changes things by focusing less on the passengers and more on the impossible choices being made behind the scenes. Kurt Russell again, and this time as a military officer, and Steven Seagal in a role that surprises a lot of people. Now, the plan is dangerous from the beginning. Secretly board the plane in midair using a stealth aircraft. Even before things go wrong, you know they will. Once inside, the tension comes from knowing that any mistake means hundreds of people die. There are no perfect options, only bad ones and worse ones. The film doesn't pretend heroism is clean. Every decision feels heavy. Every order costs something, and when things start collapsing, the movie doesn't slow down. It commits. That's why people still remember it. Copycat. Sigourney Weaver plays a criminal psychologist who survives an attack by a murderer and becomes agoraphobic afterward. She barely leaves her apartment. She studies criminals through screens, books, and police files. When a new killer starts copying famous murder cases, the police turn to her for help. She knows how these people think, but that also means she understands how vulnerable she is. The killer starts communicating with her directly, toying with her, learning her routines. The movie balances two kinds of tension, the hunt for the murderer and her personal battle to even step outside her front door. It's not just about solving the case, it's about fear taking over a life and the slow fight to take it back. Finally, one of the most quietly devastating thrillers of the decade. A simple plan. Three men find a crashed plane in the woods. Inside is a bag full of money, enough to change their lives forever. They agree to keep it secret until spring. That's the plan. Simple. But greed doesn't wait. Suspicion creeps in almost immediately. Small lies turn into bigger ones, trust fades, paranoia takes over. What's powerful about this movie is that nobody starts out evil. They start as normal people trying to do something smart. But money changes the rules. Every decision after that feels logical and wrong at the same time. By the end, you don't feel entertained, you feel heavy, because you understand how easily it could happen to anyone.